What's up, y'all, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hello and welcome. In today's video, we are going to be doing some product reviews. We're going to chat about the good, the bad, the mediocre. I'm going to give you my final thoughts on all these products that I have been testing out. Now, if you are new here, let me explain to you how my speed reviews videos work. So what I like to do is split these products up into 3 different categories. The first category is going to be products that I just don't like. They didn't work out for me, I wouldn't recommend them, and they will absolutely be making their way out of my collection somewhere in the near future. The next category is going to be products that are just okay. They're not bad, but they're not great. They just didn't quite do it for me. I will get some use out of them, but I wouldn't repurchase them in the future. And the last category is going to be products that I have been loving. I have been reaching for these over and over. I would repurchase them, recommend them. I don't know if they would necessarily be holy grail products, but as of now, in this moment, I have been loving them. But let's go ahead and jump into this because we've got quite a few products to get through. All right, let's go ahead and kick this off with the misses. So we actually only have 4 products to chat about today. And the first one is going to come to us from Essence. This is the Magic Filter Glow Booster. Now, this is a really pretty product. It is a little bit on the thicker side. It goes on really nicely. It sits well on the skin. It leaves a beautiful glow. It doesn't disturb the makeup at all. So you might be wondering why I have this in the misses. That is because this smells rancid. It smells like a dirty diaper that has been cooking in the hot sun all day, and I cannot get past it. It doesn't hang around once you get everything else on top of it, but just putting it on my face, I can smell it, and it makes me want to vomit, if I'm being completely honest. I cannot get past it. If you are somebody who is not sensitive to smell, I don't really consider myself to be sensitive to smell, but if you're somebody whose smells do not bother you at all, you might really like this because it is affordable and it is really good, but I personally cannot get past that rancid smell. Like I said, it makes me want to vomit. The next product that I have in this category does not smell. None of the rest of these smell like that one did, but this one is going to come to us from Too Faced. This is the Born This Way Multi-Use Sculpting Concealer. I picked this up when I picked up the new Born This Way foundation. Heather Austin has raved about this for several years, that this is her favorite holy grail concealer, and I don't like this. It is very heavy, very thick. It is full coverage. I don't mind a full coverage concealer, but this sits very heavy under my eyes. It makes them look very crepey, very heavy. It accentuates every single line, and it makes my under eyes look very, very dry. Now, I do have really dry under eyes, but I am very good about hydrating them, moisturizing them, but this, I just don't like the way that it sits under my eyes. I do have to set it with a powder, and it just makes it even worse. So for me personally, this is going to be a pass, but if you do have maybe more hydrated under eyes, maybe they're a little bit on the younger side, you don't have a bunch of wrinkles and crinkles and little folds under there, this might work really good, but this is giving me Tarte Shape Tape vibes, and I do not like Tarte Shape Tape. Up next from Laura Geller, we have this Made to Multitask Eye, Lip, and Cheek Palette. I got this in my last BoxyCharm. I am no longer subscribed to BoxyCharm, y'all, and this is part of the reason why. This is nice. I enjoyed playing with it. The products worked out really well. I like the shades in here. The highlighter is absolutely beautiful. Like, this is a nice and blinding highlighter, but it's not like obnoxiously blinding. It is very smooth. It has a really nice reflection to it. My issue is these have already started to dry out, and it's not just the top layer. Like, I really have to dig in there to get any pigmentation, and I didn't experience that the first time that I used this, but the more I open it and the more I use it, it just starts to dry out more and more. My other issue is that when you dig into this powder highlighter, it gets all in these cream blushes over here, so it just kind of mixes everything up. It wasn't really thought out, and it's not the best packaging. It is a little bit on the cheap side. I can look past cheap packaging if the product inside is really, really good, but like I said, it's drying out. It's just not lasting like I want it to. It makes me wonder if this has been sitting around for a while, because I could not find this anywhere on the Laura Geller site, which is another issue that I'm having with BoxyCharm, is I'm getting all these products and it's stuff that's no longer longer relevant. It's things that came out a really long time ago. I have seen discontinued products in there, and it's not settling well with me anymore. I feel like I'm starting to waste my money, and I have found that I absolutely love the ice cream beauty box, and I even signed up for the P. Louise budget box, which hopefully will be coming probably later this month. But my point is, I don't like this. I don't recommend it, which is fine because you can't get it in any way unless you got it in your BoxyCharm. And the last product in this category is going to come to us from Catrice. This is the Prime and Fine Multi-Talent Fixing Spray. It's supposed to be long lasting. It's supposed to prepare the skin and refresh the skin as well. This was giving me MAC Fix Plus vibes, which is why I picked it up, and this does not do it for me. It doesn't really do anything for like meshing my makeup together, making me look less powdery and more hydrated. It doesn't extend the longevity of my makeup. This doesn't work whenever I try and put like a shimmer on my inner corner or anything like that. If you're new here, whenever I do my eye makeup, I love to pick up my inner corner sparkle shade with a brush, spray it with some MAC Fix Plus, and pop it in there just so it has a little something to kind of grip and stick and I don't get fallout everywhere. But this just didn't really do anything for me. It's basically like water is really what it does. Like it does absolutely nothing. And the sprayer on this is so hard to push, and it's like loud that it just makes it really hard to work with. So this is a pass for me. I don't recommend it. There are other setting sprays, fixing sprays, all of that on the market from the more affordable side of things that are fantastic, and this one just isn't it. Moving on to our next category, let's jump into the products that I like, but they could have been better. Starting with the Essence Jelly Grip Primer. This is supposed to be hydrating and gripping for the makeup, and I do have this one on today, and I will say this is very hydrating. It is lightweight, it feels nice and cool and refreshing. It has that gel-like texture to it, but my issue is it doesn't give me the grip that I want. My holy grail primer is the Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. I absolutely love that one. The e.l.f. Power Grip is very similar to that one as well. That one's a little bit thicker in my opinion, but this one just doesn't have the grip that those have. So if you want something that is just going to be cooling and hydrating and does help the longevity of your makeup, this one is really good. But if you're looking for something that is going to grip and kind of give you that sticky feeling to your skin, you're not going to get that one from this. So I will use it up. I do like the way it feels on my skin. I like the way it looks on my skin, but it's not going to be a favorite of mine. Our first foundation that we have to chat about in this video is going to be the Essence Keep Me Covered Long Lasting Foundation. This is going to be transfer and waterproof, and this is a really nice foundation. It is hydrating, it is lightweight, it looks really nice on the skin. It is absolutely like waterproof, well, sweat proof is what I'd like to say. I don't really go in the water with my makeup on, but it doesn't break down in the heat, and it doesn't transfer either. My issue with this is the shade range is horrible. This is the lightest one that they have. This is 20 Porcelain, and while the shade of this one is a better match for me than the one from Catrice was, I compare it to Catrice because they are sister brands. This one is still a little bit on that yellowy side for me. So as far as like cool undertones, neutral undertones, olive undertones, they don't really hit the mark. Everything in here leans very yellow. So for that reason, it's just not going to be a favorite because this isn't a perfect shade match for me. I do have to kind of zhuzh it with other products to make it match my skin perfectly. So I will get used out of it. I do like the way that it looks on my skin. Just unfortunately, the shade range is so bad, and I hate that because this is a great formula and it's super affordable. Next, we have the new foundation from Patrick Ta. This is the Major Skin Hydrolux Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. This is very new to the market. As of now, this hasn't even been out for a solid week, but I've worn it just about every single day since I received it, and I have my final thoughts for y'all. First of all, I like the way this looks on my skin. I think it is very comfortable. It's lightweight. It is hydrating. It is luminous, very luminous, but it looks beautiful on my skin. It doesn't emphasize texture. It doesn't sink into my lines. I am 39 years old. I have normal skin. I live in a very hot, humid climate, and this is right up my alley. This is everything that I want from a foundation. Now, personally, I think that this looks better on my skin unpowdered than it does powdered, but this transfers. transfers. So if you want minimal transfer, you're going to have to powder it. And I know Patrick Ta stresses that you need to powder this foundation. My other issues with this is the longevity. So you can get a solid 8-9 hour wear out of this foundation, but for me personally, I need my foundation to hold up at least 10 to 12 hours, if not more. I am that person who puts my foundation on first thing in the morning and I wear it until right before I go to bed at night, and I don't want to be bothered with my foundation breaking down. I am not the type of person who touches up my foundation on the go. If I'm going to spend $58 on a foundation, it better look good from beginning to end, and I have tons of foundations in my collection that are this price point, higher, lower, that do that for me. So if this was like a $38 foundation, I think I would be less hesitant to put it in the favorites category, but because that longevity is not there, it does not hold up in this hot, humid Texas heat, and it transfers, I just can't do that, because when you hit that price point, it should do everything. So for that reason, I'm putting it in this category. It is not a bad foundation. And if you are somebody who doesn't mind it if your foundation transfers, you don't live in a hot, humid climate, and you just want a good solid 8-hour wear out of your foundation, this one is really beautiful. But for me, it just doesn't give me everything that I want, especially from the price point. I know that was very long-winded, but I really wanted to get all of that out there and give you my full-on reasons as to why I feel the way I feel about this foundation. I will 100% use it because, like I said, it looks beautiful. This is a hands down perfect shade match for me, and I really enjoy it. I have it on today, but if I'm going to really be doing a lot, if I need my makeup to last all day, this is not what I'm going to reach for. All right, back to drugstore with the Essence Keep Me Covered Concealer. I actually really like this. I think it looks beautiful under my eyes. It doesn't settle into my lines. It is nice and hydrating. It is thin. It is lightweight. But again, it comes down to the color range. This is just not a perfect shade match for me. It is the lightest one they have. And once again, the shade range is very minimal and everything leads more on like that yellowy neutral side. Not a true neutral. It doesn't lean orange, but it's just not a perfect shade match for me. And I really have to go in with correctors and certain powders and all of that, and because of that, it's not going to be a favorite. I will use it up, I will reach for it because, like I said, I love the way it looks under my eyes, but if it had a better shade range, this, just like the foundation, would have hands down been knocked up to a favorite. From Rare Beauty, we have the Tinted Pressed Finishing Powder. Now, I kind of struggled as to where to put this because I personally am not a fan of this. It's fine if I go in with a fluffy brush and just do sort of a light coating of this foundation, especially if I do it over something that's more hydrating. But if I do it over something that is more of a soft matte foundation, and whether I go in with a light hand or if I go in with a velour puff, it is very drying on my skin. This is a mattifying powder, and sometimes mattifying powders can look really nice on my skin and sometimes they don't, and this one's just not doing it for me, especially under my eyes. It looks very heavy, very crepey. You can see every single line under there. I'm not looking for anything that is going to erase those lines. The only thing that's going to do that is Botox, but this just doesn't set well on my skin. Like I said, I do have normal skin, so I don't get oily. I do get a little bit more dry in the winter time, so if you have dry to normal skin, I don't think this is going to be the powder for you. But if you do have combination to oily skin, I do think this one is really nice. But my other issue with this is the lightest one in the range, and it is very yellow leaning. It's a little bit too dark for me. So again, if I go in with a velour sponge, which is how I like to apply a pressed powder, it starts to change the tone and the depth of my foundation, and I just don't like that. I wish she had given us a translucent or maybe something a little bit lighter, maybe some cool undertones. The shade range just isn't my favorite. So like I said, I struggled with where to put this because I personally do not like it. I don't like how light it goes. I don't like the way it looks on my skin, but I don't think it's a bad powder. I just don't think it's a powder for me. From Essence, we have the Fix and Last 18-Hour Makeup Fixing Spray. I actually really like this one. I like the mister on this. It is very fine. It goes on very nicely. It is a little aggressive, but it's still a very fine mist. It doesn't have a fragrance to it. It doesn't leave water droplets. It doesn't disturb my makeup. It does help the longevity of my makeup, and I think it looks really nice. My only issue with this is I have to be careful what foundations I put it over, because this is going to give you a more mattifying effect, and I don't like mattifying. I've said that several times, especially at this point. So for me personally, that's why it's kind of going right here. But if you like a more mattifying effect and you want something that's going to hold your makeup in place while keeping your oils at bay and shine free, this one is really nice. Like I said, it's fragrance free, it's alcohol free, and it goes on really nicely. It's just not going to be a favorite for me. All right, I have one bronzer. This is going to be the Essence Sun Club Luminous Bronzing Powder. I have this bronzer on today, and this is in the shade 20, Sun Kissed in California. I believe it was the only shade they had, or maybe it was the lightest shade they had. I can't remember exactly which one it was. This does say medium tone on it, so it leads me to believe that there's a lighter one, but I couldn't find the lighter one. Anyways, let's move on from that. So this is a luminous bronzer. I do think it looks really nice on the skin, and obviously I can pull it off, but I have to go in with a very fluffy brush. If I go in with anything too dense, this comes off too orange on my skin. It doesn't patch, it doesn't grab, it is not glittery, it just has a nice sheen to it. So it gives you that sun-kissed look, like you've been out in the sun, you're healthy, you've gotten your vitamin D, and I do think it's beautiful. But for me, I wish it was just a little bit more on the neutral side, or maybe even like that rosy side, and then it would have been a favorite, because I do really love this formula and I love the way that it looks on my skin. I just have to be careful and go in with a light hand, especially with a fluffy brush. From Bella Beauty Bar, we have the Baked Blush Face and Cheek Palette. This is really cute. I love the packaging. It is nice and small, nice and compact. You do get a mirror in here, and you have 6 powder blushes. These are beautiful. I love the shades in here. They are a little bit more on the pigmented side, especially when you get to the darker ones down here. They're not unwearable for me. I just have to make sure that I go in with a very light hand. I do have on this orangey one today on my cheeks, and you can see it's not too much, but I did go in very lightly handed. Like, I cannot stress that enough. The formula is fantastic. I think it sits well on the cheek. They are matte blushes, so they're not going to have a sheen to them or anything like that. I wouldn't say they're blurring, but they look really nicely. They don't emphasize texture, they don't look drying or anything like that. And the reason that I'm putting this here is because I am probably not going to get a lot of use out of these 2 shades over here, just because they are too deep for my skin. I have worn them, I have tried them on, and even going in with a light hand, they are a little bit too dark for me. So for me, I am just going to get use out of these 4 shades over here, and I wish we had a little bit more variety when it comes to the lighter blushes in this palette, because you get to the lighter ones and they're both pretty much pink. You have a cool tone pink and a warm tone pink, whereas you get to the mid-tones and you have an orange and a pink, and you get to the deep and you have like a red and a really pretty neutral. So the variation in here isn't quite what I wanted. I would love to see some single blushes from the brand. I think those would be absolutely wonderful. If you could buy them magnetic, pop them in your own pan, kind of pick out the shades you want, that I would be all about. So formula wise, absolutely beautiful. Color selection, not my favorite. From Anastasia Beverly Hills, we have the Blurring Blush Serum. This is in the shade Peach, and this is their new liquid blush that they came out with. It has this nice, precise little applicator tip on it. I love the applicator tip on here because, like I said, you can be super precise where you put it. You have more control over how much product you get out, and I do really like this. I think it looks beautiful on the skin. I don't know so much about the blurring, but I think it sits well. I like the pigmentation of it. A little bit goes a long way, but it's not quite as pigmented as the ones from like Juvia's Place, e.l.f., Rare Beauty, all of those. But my only issue with this is it does not work over powder. When I try to put it over powder, it immediately dries down and sticks. It is very hard to move around and spread around and blend out. If you watched my swatching all of the blushes of the year video, I did apply this over powder. That was the first time I had used it, and you could see the little dots from where I put it, and I just had a really hard time blending it out. So that's why this is going to go in this category, because in order for a blush, a bronzer, a highlighter, any kind of cream or liquid powder to be an absolute favorite, it has to work both over and under a powder product, and this one just doesn't do that. As well as this one from Lunar Beauty. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful blush. I love the way this looks on my skin, but it is very finicky when I get to putting it on over a powder. It is much easier to use than this one is over a powder, but again, I have to work a little bit harder, and if I put too much, I risk moving everything around that's already on my face. I find it easier to put this on over a powder if you put it on the back of your hand, pick it up with a brush, and then go in, but it's not an absolute favorite. I wanted something that would be just very easy, very effortless when I put it on over a powder. But if you're somebody who is very good about putting your blushes on under powder, this is a beautiful product. I love the shade of this. I love the shade range of this, and I am really happy to have one, but it just didn't quite hit the mark for me. All right, so we got a couple more products and then we get to move on to the next category. So first up, we have a couple of mascaras to chat about. So the first one is the Charmacy Volumizing Mascara. I did get this one in my Ice Cream Beauty box, and the packaging is a 10 out of 10. This is so heavy, so luxurious. Like, it looks like a Tom Ford mascara just from looking at it, but this is a really nice mascara. It is more volumizing than lengthening, which I prefer more lengthening than volumizing. I do like both, but if I had to choose one, I want lengthening. But my issue with this is it doesn't hold up very well when my eyes start to water. I have very watery eyes. I have lots of allergies. My eyes will just water for no reason, and this does not hold up to that. So that is the reason that I'm putting it here. Not because it's a bad formula, not because it didn't last very long. It hasn't started to dry out or clump up or do anything like that. The wand is a little bit bigger, but it's not as big as you would think. It gets in there really nicely. But again, in order for a mascara to be an absolute favorite, it needs to hold up to my watery eyes. And that's the same thing again with the City Beauty Beyond mascara. This is beautiful. I love the way this looks on my lashes. This gives me lots of length. It does have like conditioning agents in it that are going to help with the growth of your lashes. But for me, this does not hold up when my eyes start to water. I don't get transfer or anything like that on a day when my eyes don't water, but when they do, it just goes down my face. It's the same for both of them. So they are great mascaras if you don't have a problem with watery eyes. These are hands down wonderful choices, but they're just not going to be favorites for me. And our last product in this category is going to be this lipstick from Essence. This is the Semi Matte Lipstick. I have the shade Real 06, and this is really pretty. I like the shade of this. I like the way that it goes on. It goes on very nicely. It glides. It doesn't grab. It doesn't pull. But for me, this is a little too mattifying. I do have very dry lips. No matter what I do, they are always dry, and this really just dries them out a little bit more. It doesn't hydrate them as much as I want them to. It's definitely more on the matte side than the semi-matte side, but if you are somebody who loves a matte lip, this one is really beautiful. And if you don't have dry lips, I do think it would be very comfortable and very flattering. But like I said, for me personally, this just does not do it for my lips. It dries them out and makes them look worse than they already are. So I can't really use it too much, but it's not a bad formula. It's just not for me. And that is going to bring us to our final category, which is all the products that I have really been loving. There's not a whole lot sitting here, but there are some really good things that I'm excited to share with y'all. So first, from Catrice, we have the Perfector Poreless Blur Primer with Niacinamide. This is really nice. This is definitely blurring and like pore filling, but it's also very hydrating at the same time. It doesn't settle into everything and start to have like an adverse reaction. I've noticed with some blurring primers that if they don't have enough of a slip to them, or if they're too dry and too stiff, they'll make everything look worse. And this one does not do that. This one definitely rivals high-end blurring primers, and I'm impressed with this one. I think if you have very oily skin, this might be a little too hydrating for you, but it's definitely a really good alternative to the one from e.l.f. I personally like that one more. I do like that one, but I like the way that this one sits and glides onto my skin, and I feel like I get a little bit more longevity with this one. From Tarte, we have the Creamy Creaseless Corrector. This is the green one. I have already reviewed the one in the peachy pink shade, and I absolutely love that one. But I wanted to get more use out of the green one before I gave you my final thoughts on it. I know it's the same product, but sometimes greens don't work as well as other greens. But I have found that this one works really, really nicely. It is very pigmented. A little bit goes a long way. If you put too much on, it can definitely make you look a little sickly or a little swampy, but it sits well, really nice under products. I do like to put this on over my primer and under my foundation, and it doesn't peek through, especially if I do a very sheer coverage foundation. It just cuts down that redness and gives me a little bit more of like a blank canvas to begin with, and I've really been enjoying it. I don't use a whole lot of color correctors when it comes to my redness, just because generally I don't mind it, and if I really want to get rid of it, I just go in with a full coverage foundation. But there are days that I want something a little bit lighter, and I just want to cut out a little bit of that redness, especially if I'm going to go in with like a more pinky or reddy blush. I don't want to add more red on top of red, if that makes sense. So this is really nice. I do really enjoy this one, but just keep in mind it is very pigmented. Another one from Essence, we have the 16-Hour Cover and Last Powder Foundation. Now, I bought all these Essence products for my dedicated Essence review video, and I was really surprised by this one. I was looking for a setting powder, and all of their setting powders were very mattifying, and I don't like anything mattifying. But I saw in the reviews a lot of people say that this one was fantastic for a setting powder, and they are 100% right. I do like to use this with a big fluffy brush. If I go in with like a sponge or a velour poof, anything like that, it can be a little too heavy, but again, it is a powder foundation, so it does work really nicely as a setting powder. I'm not a big fan of it under my eyes, but I generally like a pink setting powder under there anyway. I like something a little bit more finely milled, and I already have my favorites, but this works really well to set the skin. But if you are somebody who likes a powder foundation, this works really well for that as well. This is not your typical powder foundation. It's not nearly as drying, as heavy as ones that I have used in the past. I find this one to be a little bit more skin-like with its finish. It sits nicer on my skin, but I do have to make sure that I am going in with lots of hydration underneath it, just because I do have normal skin that can lean a little bit dry. I don't have those oils that come throughout the day to kind of break this up and give it, not break it up, but give it a little bit more of that natural finish. So for me personally, I like to make sure I go in with a very hydrating primer. I like to make sure that I set it with a hydrating setting spray, but it looks beautiful on the skin. It gives really good coverage. The compact is really, really nice. It comes with an applicator under here and a mirror as well, and I'm really impressed by this one. I can definitely see this being a staple in my collection and repurchasing it over and over because I have enjoyed it that much. But I do have another pressed powder that I have really been enjoying that really kind of surprised me. This is the Oakcha Oil Control Pressed Powder, and I was really worried about this one. I got this in another ice cream beauty box, and this is a white pressed powder. I don't normally go for white powders because they normally leave a cast on the skin. They kind of take down the color that my foundation has and can really kind of wash me out and make me look a little sickly. Plus, it's oil controlling, which in my mind automatically goes to mattifying, heavy, cakey, drying, all of those things. And this is none of that. This is a true translucent powder. It looks beautiful on the skin. I don't find it to be overly drying. I find it to be very blurring. I find it to be very smoothing on my skin. I can go in with it with a velour sponge or a powder depending on the coverage that I want. And I have really been enjoying this powder. I don't have a whole lot of products from Oakcha, so I was happy to have something new that wasn't a highlighter, and this is beautiful. I'm really, really impressed with this one. I like it. The packaging is a little cheap, but I can get past that. We have one blush in this category, and this one comes to us from Xoxo. This is the Palace Identity Blossom Blush. This is in the shade Hibiscus. Again, another product I got in my ice cream beauty box, and this is beautiful. This looks beautiful on the skin. It goes on really nicely. It's blurring. It is matte with like a little bit of a sheen to it. Like, I wouldn't quite call it a satin blush, but it's not quite a full-on matte blush either. I like the shade of this. It can be a little bit more pigmented if you concentrate on that center piece just a little bit more, but if you kind of swirl in really good, make sure you pick up a lot of that outer ring. this can go on really light as well. I love the versatility with this. I love the packaging. Again, a lot like the bronzer that I had, I believe, in my last speed reviews. This is really nice. I've really enjoyed it. The packaging is a 10 out of 10. The product is absolutely beautiful. That overspray did come off, but that doesn't mean that this isn't still a beautiful product. And I've really been enjoying this blush. The peachiness in here is just enough. It's not too orange and it's not too pink. It is a true peach, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. I've really been enjoying this one, and as much as I complained about that subscription box that I got from Xoxo, I do have to say the products that I have gotten that I can actually use are really nice, and I have enjoyed them. So they have redeemed themselves as far as that goes. I still wouldn't suggest getting their subscription box. From Il Makiage, we have the Mineral Baked Highlighter in the shade Halo. This is the one that I am wearing on my skin today. I got this one in my last BoxyCharm, and I was worried about this. It looks a little dark. It is very powdery when you pick it up, and you get a lot of product on the brush, but this looks so beautiful on the skin. It gives like a wet effect. It lays on really nicely. It lasts all day. It's not glittery. It's not chunky. It is very smooth. It is a baked highlighter, and I love a baked highlighter. Like, let me show you a good swatch of this. So this is what it picks up like, and you can see why I was so worried. But when you go in and you swatch it out, and then you start to sheer it with a brush, because obviously we're not swiping this on our cheek, look at that beautiful reflection. Like, this is an absolutely beautiful highlighter. I have been reaching for this so much, and I want to keep reaching for it. I think this one's going to go directly into my everyday drawer, and sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't, but I'm going to keep using this one because it's beautiful. I do think the price point is a little much for what it is, but it's that good that I think I could justify repurchasing it if I broke it, ran out, another shade, whatever the case may be. From Unearthly Cosmetics, we have the liquid highlight in the shade Bizarre. This came in the Night Terror Mini Mystery Box. I believe that's the only place that you can get this shade in particular. They do have other liquid highlighters in their collection, and I'm not the biggest fan of all of those because they are very shifty, very colorful, and it's not something I reach for on the daily. I do love a good colorful highlighter for a certain occasion, but that's usually why they just aren't my favorites. But this one is, I think, my favorite liquid highlighter that they have done. It is a very pretty like lavender highlighter, and it does have a really pretty reflect to it. It blends into the skin really nicely, but it doesn't have like a wild flip or anything like that to it. This does lay down really fast, so you have to work quick. My favorite way to do it is to either pick it up directly off of the little spoolie and go in with a brush or a sponge, or put it on the back of your hand and pick it up from there. I don't suggest dotting it on your skin, but it just looks absolutely beautiful. It has a nice transparent base to it, which is what I like from a highlighter, and this one is beautiful. I don't always love the highlighters and the lip colors that Unearthly comes out with, but this one is really good, and I do love that one. We have another product from Xoxo. This is the Long Lasting Eyeliner. This is a liquid eyeliner in the shade Black, and this is really nice. It is a brush tip applicator, but this goes on very thin, very precise. Like, see how thin I can get that? It is nice and pigmented. You can go in a little bit thicker. This is a good matte black, and it dries down and it does not budge. Like, you just saw me put that on the back of my hand. I'm gonna give it just a second to dry down, and watch this. That is going nowhere. Like, I am scrubbing the back of my hand and nothing. This is budge proof. Even with watery eyes, this goes nowhere. I actually kind of have a little bit of a hard time removing it at night. I just kind of have to go in a little bit, like with a little bit more pressure to remove it. I don't have to like dig into my eye, but it's not very gentle to remove, but it lasts all freaking day. All right, so we have two mascaras to talk about in this category, and I am super excited about this because I have struggled really hard to find an affordable mascara that works for me. Like I said, I have very watery eyes. They are very sensitive. They're sensitive to everything, and I have to be careful, and I have found that a lot of drugstore mascaras either irritate my eyes or they clump up on me, they transfer, they're not truly as waterproof as they claim to be, and they dry out really quickly. But these two right here I have absolutely been loving. So the first one that I have is the Essence Lash Princess False Effect waterproof mascara, and this is so good. The hype is real with the Lash Princess mascaras. I wish I had jumped on this train a long time ago because these are wildly affordable. There are so many different formulas, and I've heard from a lot of people that they love multiple of them. It's not just one formula that's really good. It's for the most part a majority of them. So I'm excited to try more of them, but this one gives me more length than volume. It is very separating. It gives me more of a like wispy false lash effect, so it's not going to give you like that bold false lash, but it's very natural. It's very beautiful. I love the way it looks. It lasts on my eyes. I don't have an issue with it coming off, transferring. It doesn't irritate my eyes, anything like that. This one is really good. I'm excited to try more of them. I definitely need to get some backups because that has become a new favorite. But another one that I really love is from their sister brand, Catrice. This is the Lash Changer Volume Mascara. So this one's going to give me more volume than length, which is fine. Sometimes I want more volume. Usually I want more length, but again, this one's fantastic for all the same reasons the one from Essence is. This one does not claim to be waterproof, but it holds up on my eyes really well when they do start to water. So I do get a little bit of transfer, which I'm fine with, but it doesn't run down my face. So it usually just kind of settles like right here, and then I can just blot it away. But for the most part, it holds up really nicely. It hasn't dried out on me, and I've had this one open longer than the one from Essence. This one is a little bit more money than the one from Essence, which that's fine. They're both super affordable. They're both under 10 bucks, and I'm really impressed with both formulas. I have layered these. I'm not a big fan of layering mascaras, but if you go in with the Catrice first and then go in with the Essence, you get an absolutely beautiful, like full fluffy false lash effect. But I have really been enjoying those, and I am so happy that I have finally found mascaras from the drugstore that I actually like. All right, so we have a couple of lip products to get through and then we will be done. So from Essence, we have the Soft and Precise Lip Pencil. This is in the shade Bold, and this is a really nice formula. I have said before, it doesn't take much to impress me with a lip liner, but this one is really good. So this is nice and creamy. It glides on really nicely, but it's not so creamy that it's going to move around and just make a big old mess over your face. It is a little bit more on the dry side, but it's not so drying that's going to pull and tug across your lips and can be painful to put on. It lasts all day, it dries down, it doesn't budge, and this is really, really nice. This one reminds me of the ones from e.l.f. that I love so much, except this one gives me the shade name on it, so this one gets extra little brownie points for that, plus it's super affordable. From ColourPop, we have the So Juicy Plumping Glossy Lip Oil. This is really, really nice. This is more of a lip oil gloss hybrid, so it's not going to be as thin as a lip oil, but it's also not going to be quite as thick as a lip gloss either. But this is really nice. It definitely has a little bit more of like that minty cooling effect to it. It's not painful or anything like that. It has a really nice doe foot applicator, but I do feel like it gives a little bit of something as far as plumping goes. Not quite as much as I want, but this is very comfortable, very beautiful on the lip. It's not sticky, it's not heavy, it's not goopy. It is very hydrating. It is going to wear off once you eat and drink, things like that, but this is a really nice affordable option. I like the shade range that they have. This is the shade Hits Diff, and I've really been enjoying that one. I don't always get along with all of ColourPop's lip products, but I think that was a really good launch from the brand. And our last lip product is going to come to us from Fantasy Cosmetica. This is the Lost Library lipstick in the shade Buried, and this is beautiful. This isn't really a shade I go for a whole lot. It is very dark, a little intimidating for me, but it is very comfortable on the lips. It is almost a soft matte, but a little bit more satin. It's not like a full on satin lipstick, but it's not quite a matte lipstick either. It's very comfortable, very hydrating. The pigmentation lasts a really long time. Even after you eat and drink and things like that, you can still see a little hint of that color. It wears off really nicely. Like I said, it is nice and comfortable on the lips, and I think it's beautiful. I really do like this color, but it's just one that I really have to kind of be in the mood for, which I'm getting there. Fall is coming, and these are the shades that I gravitate towards, but formula wise, this is a really nice lipstick and I'm happy to have it, and I've really been enjoying it. All right, y'all, so that is going to complete this video, and I hope y'all found it super helpful. I always try to be as thorough as I possibly can when it comes to why I do or don't like a certain product, because I really just want to help you out with your future buying decisions. But let me know all of your thoughts down below. Did some of these products hit a little bit different from you? What are some of your favorites? What are some duds? I want to know it all. Let's have that conversation. Light up that comment section, and as usual, I want to thank you all so much for watching my video and spending your time with me. It truly does mean so much to me. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up before you leave. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on that notification bell so that you can be notified of all my future posts here on my channel. I do post quite a few videos every single week, and I wouldn't want you to miss one. But until my next video, have a good one. Bye.